Okay, another chance. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Long time no see, right? No? Not long time no see? We did not have a class on Monday? Alright, so everybody had the PPT? You had the PPT, right? Alright, so today we're going to look at diet and diabetes. Alright, it's going to be a little bit of like the review we had on chapter 3 when we saw the relationship between nutrition and health. Okay, so it's going to be like pretty easy. You just have to go through chapter 3. Alright, so you have the PPT, we shall go. Alright, so okay, so this is what we're going to look at today. We're just going to look at the different type of diabetes that we have. I think everybody knows that already. Just have to go through chapter 3. Number 2, we look at the symptoms. Alright? And then we'll see how to manage diabetes. This is actually the most important part. Alright? So, how can we manage the problem of diabetes? Okay, so that will be the most important part. How do we manage diabetes? Of course, the part that we're going to focus on will be on the nutritional part, right? Really, wow, we have a lot of people late this morning. Okay, so really, my approach is always to see how we can be off medication. You know, how can we manage a disease without using medicine, right? So that's really like my personal approach, how we can actually manage some of these problems. So the first part, we look at the different types of diabetes, we look at the symptoms, and how we can solve the problem. Okay, okay? Wow, 9 a.m. everybody looks sleepy. I woke up at 4:30. So I was excited to come and see you guys this morning. But nobody looks excited to see me. This is the best class on campus, right? So let's look at it. The definition, the simple one that we know already, it looks pretty long. Group of serious and chronic disorders affecting metabolism of carbohydrates. If you remember, I told you, you can find your way to explain what it is. You can simply say, this is a case where we have what? Too much sugar in the blood. Okay? Too much sugar in the blood. And here, every time we go to the hospital, what we actually check is what? Is the glucose, blood glucose, right? In chapter 3, I gave you the numbers, and I will give you the number again, all right? So, which number is the reference in terms of diabetes? How do you know you have diabetes? Which number will you get?
126.
Yes. So when you have over 126 milligram per deciliter, then you say, okay, now maybe we're having some issues. All right. So we look at it. There are different causes that we may associate to it. You know, we may say, okay, maybe genetics. The problem with genetics, meaning we're getting it because we belong to these bloodline from this family. It's like a condemnation. It's like, oh, I have no choice, you know. I have no choice, I'm done because in my family, we have this problem. But this is my take. And this is the beauty of this class is you can make your own opinion based on research, all right? You can make your own opinion based on research. But there are diseases that we can reverse. For example, the case of type 2 diabetes. Right? So, when I say that we can reverse it, it means we can come back to our natural or original state. Right? We saw the example, for example, of what gestational diabetes, right? In the case of gestational diabetes, we know that, oh, this pregnant lady, she didn't have diabetes before, right? And now we're having too much sugar in the blood. She now has gestational diabetes. All right. But after the baby is there, right? It's possible she comes back to her original state. How about other people? It's also possible by changing our diet. This is what we have been studying, right? For example, the problem of obesity. We know if we change our diet, tweak it a little bit, it's possible that we come back to our original state. So that's how you have to see. That's how you have to see this morning. Number two, environmental factors can also be involved, viruses, and our biggest problem that we can actually change, the one we can actually change is which one? Is the problem of obesity. Okay? Because we know that, what do we know? What are the causes of obesity? Everybody remembers the cause of obesity. What was the number one? Overeating, right? But what did I say about overeating?
It's about what kind of food you eat.
Yeah, exactly. So because you can eat a lot of vegetables, but it's really what kind of food we are eating. All right? So the number two reason of obesity is what? Say that again? Yeah, physical inactivity. So what does it mean? If you look at these two factors alone, right? Just think with me. We say that one of the reasons, one of the causes of diabetes, right, is what? We say, okay, obesity, okay? And obesity is associated with, excess of nutrient, if you want, or overeating, or the kind of food that we're eating, all right? And the number two reason is what? Physical inactivity. We don't exercise. So I'm just giving you a little bit of summary of the whole chapter already. So what does it mean? It means that if I change my food habits, right? If I change my diet, and if I exercise, then I can manage this problem. This is what it means, right? So you just need to have a clear vision of what is the problem, and then you think about the solution. Okay? So let's look at it. We talk in chapter 3, you probably saw it, and those who take nutrition class, we have a full chapter of carbohydrates. All right? So we have the carbohydrates here, which means, okay, we need to manage the type of sugar, the type of carbohydrates that we put in our body. Because at the end of the day, what we have, we are measuring the glucose here. Just remember, every time we eat, what is happening? The glucose level in the blood goes up, right? So this is what is happening. So this is why we have to monitor the carbohydrates that we put in our body. All right. So you have this picture on chapter 3 is basically the same. And here, the section of complex carbohydrates, you see that the polysaccharides here, and I mentioned the fiber one, 25 to 35 milligrams that we need daily. The good thing about the fiber, having the fibers here is what? Is that we know that by eating a lot of fibers, the production of insulin is not really requiring that bigger quantity, right? So what is the insulin job? Everybody remembers? What is insulin job? Yeah, the insulin, is actually helping to reduce the sugar level in the blood, right? So we have the insulin that is produced in the pancreas, and that is going to transfer the sugar to the cell. Okay? So, and there was a relationship between, like we talk about the problem of obesity and how we get hungry, and then we will require more production of insulin. But with the fibers here, that production of insulin is not requiring big quantity. All right? So let's look at the next one here. We mentioned these two types of diabetes. Type 1 What is the characteristic of type 1 diabetes? What do we know? What do we know about type 1 diabetes? Or if you want, what is the difference? What is the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? What is the difference?
Type 1
Yeah.
doesn't have insulin.
Alright.
Insulin doesn't work.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Park. This is what is happening here. In the case of type 1, alright, basically we have no insulin or very little. Okay? We call it autoimmune disease. Okay? And in the case of type 2, the type 2 case is actually interesting because we have insulin, and what Ms. Park is saying is that, oh, but the insulin is not working. Alright? So, I always give you this example. It's like having a key. Okay? So, you have a key that usually opens the door. But if you put the gum, right, then there is an obstruction. And that gum, in our case here, will be associated with fat. Alright? So we want to know why the insulin not working. Okay? So we start talking about the problem of insulin resistance. Again, my friend, you need to go back to chapter 3. Alright? I gave you some details there. Today we will focus a little bit on how to manage it. Hey guys, I think this morning I am in trouble, right? I don't see any choke I don't see any choke here. Nobody wants me to teach this morning. Thank you, Alberto. I really appreciate it. Alberto wants me to teach this morning, so I will be able to write something, right? All right. So that's the way we have to understand it. All right. So now we have an obstruction here that is associated with fat, and I showed you a picture a while ago of that relationship where what we have here is what? Fat is causing insulin secretion. Okay? And when the insulin secretion is increased, what do we have? Increased appetite. You are hungry. You want to eat, right? And when you eat, what is happening when you eat? We gain weight, right? We're putting a lot of energy in the body, right? And as I gain weight, the last time I checked, I'm not adding muscle weight, right? What kind of weight am I adding? Fat, okay? And that fat is what will be associated with the case of insulin resistance, because it's actually blocking the free passage of the insulin to bring the sugar to the cells. All right? So that's what we have to really look at it. Thank you. Wow, you bring 3 colors.
Yeah.
I'll try to do my best job today. All right? So that's the way we have to look at it. All right? That's the way we have to look at it. So then the solution in terms of management is what? Is to lose weight in this case. So the type 1 diabetes, let me start with the type 1 diabetes. Like we said in the beginning, right? It's an insulin producing cell, but they are destroyed, so no insulin. The problem with this case of diabetes is we don't really have much choices. So a person who has type 1 diabetes, how can he manage his problem? What will he do? What will be the solution for this type of cases? Medicine? Yeah, but oftentimes,
Injection.
yes, insulin injection. All right? So oftentimes we're going to have lots of insulin pen. Like every morning, we monitor, monitor insulin level in our blood, and then we inject the insulin. Why do we inject the insulin? The insulin helps what? To reduce
Glucose.
glucose in the blood, right? So this is not really too complicated, right? But again, like I told you on chapter 3, this case, we mostly see it with children or adolescents, right? The type 2 diabetes, most cases, happen to people over 40, right? So I'm getting in trouble now. Yeah. So, yeah, actually, after this class, I have to go to our university hospital, but for something different. Hopefully, they won't give me bad news, right? So, the type 2 diabetes, like I put here, usually happen here after 40. But what is the interesting part now? Remember, we talked, for example, in Korea, the problem of diet transition in Korea. We are changing the way we eat in Korea. And by changing the way we eat in Korea, the diet in Korea is more Western-like diet. Okay? I told you where I live, we have all these Western-type restaurants, right? And then what is happening here is we are now observing adolescents with cases of type 2 diabetes. And these adolescents, right, oftentimes they are obese. Okay? They are obese. The risk factors associated with diabetes, I mentioned in the beginning, family history of diabetes, old age, history of gestational diabetes, physical activity, and in some cases, we may talk about race or ethnicity. All right? Next semester, I will give the class food and culture, and then in that class, we look at different groups of people. For example, we talk about the First Nations, the Amerindians people living in Canada, the first people in the US. The level of diabetes in that community is a little bit higher than the national average. So then we have to look a little bit at the food habits. So, type 2 diabetes treatment, we'll talk about it again. Exercise, oral diabetes medication, and diet, right? But what did I put here? This type of statement, I usually like putting them in bold. May or may not need insulin. All right. So, the type 2, sometimes you may not need insulin. And again, I think that there's a way we can reverse some diseases by changing our diet, right? By doing some physical activities. Okay. The goals of medication in terms of nutritional therapy: maintain a healthy glucose, blood pressure, and lipid level. So, when I talk about it, you have to still remember. Everybody still remember this famous picture. I hope that everybody knows by now. Okay. And here I talk the problem about high blood pressure. Okay. So here, because of obesity, there's a risk of high blood pressure, all right? And on the other side here, we have what? Type 2 diabetes. Okay? Here on the bottom, we have atherosclerosis. And on top, we have, some cancers, right? But when you look at it, the common denominator is obesity. Okay? This is where we have to focus on. And if you go on Google, you can read maybe some of my papers that I wrote on acculturation and health. What you're going to find out is, you're going to see that most people who say that they have high blood pressure, okay, most of these people were obese. And also the people who told you, oh, they have type 2 diabetes, these people were also overweight or obese. And now we have more evidence, like I told you, that if you take 10 people with type 2 diabetes, 9 out of these 10 people will be overweight or obese. So, which means that we can manage it. Okay? So we can manage it, and we may actually reverse it, right? By being off medication and just be disciplined in our diet. All right? So how do we do it? The case of gestational diabetes, we mentioned it already, and you can check again on chapter 4. We look at it, and chapter 5 as well. Right? The case of gestational diabetes happens between the 16th and 28th week. It's another form of type 2 diabetes. It's not different. Not different. The only thing is, it happens only when a lady is pregnant. Okay? You know, we get a little bit of weight, maybe the diet changes a little bit, the sugar level goes up, and we cannot control it anymore. Alright? So this is what is happening here. So these numbers, again my friend, these numbers, you need to know these numbers. As you know, we always have a problem to solve. Okay? The numbers in terms of pre-diabetes, this is first sign of insulin resistance between 100 to 125 milligram per deciliter. Over 126, now we have cases of diabetes. But just know that you can have diabetes, still have a normal life. The problem, it becomes dangerous because diabetes can lead to blindness, as you know, right? You can become blind. It can also lead to what? Amputation, like cut your leg. Okay? So these are and some of the chronic diseases. Alright, and in this case, let's say if you are around 126, 127, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not time to say your last prayer, right? You still have the opportunity to manage it. It becomes mostly chronic, right, when it's already over 140 milligram per deciliter. All right, that then it's really like a big mess at this time. 126, 127, or 128, 129. We can still reverse it. We can still manage it. Okay, we can still manage it. We can still find a solution. All right, and just by changing our daily habits. Oh my gosh, welcome to class. Alright, so what are the symptoms? These are the things that we have to look at. Alright? Glycosuria, meaning glucose in your urine. This is actually the origin of the word diabetes mellitus when it was found over 100 years ago. Alright? Diabetes, by definition, the origin of the word is just like free-flowing, right? Diabetes free-flowing. Why do we say free-flowing? It's just because oftentimes we have this word polyuria, excess urination, right? So you have the name diabetes mellitus, right? So the diabetes part means free-flowing, just like the person urinates a lot, goes a lot to the toilet, all right? So that's the origin of the word, all right? This is what we call symptoms. Symptoms, simple definition, right? Don't think too much about it. A symptom is just telling me, hey, careful, something is wrong, okay? A symptom is a warning. It's like you are driving and you have a yellow light, say, hey, cool down, it's about to turn red, okay? So this is where we have here excess urination, polyuria. This is where you have the name diabetes, free flowing. And the mellitus part is what? Is come from the word like honey, like honey, sugary, alright? Now we're having sugar, right, on it, okay? So this is what we're having, like we test the urine and we have like too much sugar on it. Excess urination, the person goes a lot to the toilet, okay? Polydipsia, excess thirst, you are often thirsty, alright? And polyphagia, excess appetite, okay? When you look at it, when I put the excess appetite here, we also have other factors such as like weight loss, weakness, and fatigue. That can also be different warning signs that, hey, maybe I have to be careful, okay? This is why I advise you not to drink certain drinks, all right? Everybody knows the drink that I don't like. Okay, using the technology at the same time to see. Okay, so far so good. All right, so let's talk about the third part. As you can see, I don't really go too much into details. You can go back to chapter 3. I try to make this chapter as short as possible. And next week we'll go through the study guides of the last chapter and this chapter as well. Okay, so we'll just do some practical work in class about how to solve some of these problems. Managing diabetes, different ways, but I gave you 3 again that you have to remember. All right, and I put them here in red. So what did I say? How do we manage it? 3 ways: exercise, medication, and food. All right. As you know, once again, like we did on the last exam, I'll give you a problem, and as a nutritionist, so you just try to see how we can help this person manage his chronic disease. Okay? So, how do we do it? Exercise, medication, and food. Alright? How? We can use the diet alone in some cases. Just tweak a little bit. Chapter 2, planning a healthy diet. We know the kind of food that is good for us. Alright? Or we can combine the diet with glucose lowering medication. Alright? There are some medications there that help to lower the blood glucose. Diet combined with insulin, also possible. Exercise, in addition to any of the above. Regular monitoring of blood glucose, this is a very important aspect. You cannot just do these things, but we always have to check our blood glucose so that we know, there is a progress, right? There is something good that is happening. Okay? So let's start with exercise. All right? Exercise does what? It helps our body use the glucose. Okay? It helps our body use the glucose. All right. It lowers cholesterol, blood pressure, body fat, and stress level. Okay. So, why exercising? And again, just remember one of the causes of diabetes. One of the causes is obesity. All right. It's like we say. I told you one time. Somebody says, "Oh, diabetes runs in the family." Meaning that, hey, in my family it's a genetic thing, we have diabetes. And then we say, oh, okay, maybe in your family you guys have to start running, exercise. When we exercise, what is happening? We lose weight, right? And when we lose weight, okay, it allows, we don't need much insulin production, right? And the insulin can work freely, okay? So, important for management of type 2 diabetes. But now, let's be careful. When I put the management for this one, it's mostly for type 2 diabetes for exercise. Type 1 diabetes, I will not recommend necessary exercise in this case unless your medical doctor recommends it. All right. So, most of the time, people who have type 1 diabetes are already very, very thin. Okay. So that one will be different, but the type 2, we want to break, we want the body to use the glucose, we want to lose weight, so exercise will be recommended in this case. So I say must be carefully discuss and plan in type 1 diabetes to avoid hypoglycemia. What is hypoglycemia? Anybody? What is hypoglycemia? Yeah. So here we having lower sugar level, right, in the blood. So just look at it. Why do we exercise? We exercise because we want the body, to use the sugar. Okay? But if a person has type 1 diabetes, alright, and in this case, it won't be really the best option, right? Because we don't want to have a very, case of lower sugar level here. The person is already thin or he lost a lot of weight. So we have to really be careful before we use this option. So exercise is better for type 2 diabetes. Okay? Just remember that part.
So the patient who have the type 1 diabetes have to avoid hypoglycemia or what?
Because there is a case, hypoglycemia, what does it mean? Now we don't have enough sugar, right? Because I didn't put that picture. In chapter 3, I showed that picture where what is happening? In the case of hypoglycemia, which hormone is going to be produced? When we have too much sugar in the blood, the pancreas will produce what? Insulin. So we talk about hypoglycemia, right? Now in the case of hypoglycemia, what do we produce here? The glucagon. So, but what is taking place? To help let you understand, what is taking place here is the body is going to break down the glycogen into
glucose.
Yeah. Okay.
Into what?
Glucose.
Into glucose.
Okay.
Because why? Because we don't have enough sugar. All right. Just remember that we need sugar. The body needs sugar here. So we don't want to, by exercising, what do? We are using that sugar. We are breaking down the glycogen, right? We break it because the body is using now the reserve, the energy that it has. All right. And by using that energy, it means like, hey, we're getting depleted of some sugar as well because the body is using it.
So it means we need those sugar because during exercising, while exercising actually we spend it. That's why we need sugar. Yeah. So on the first line here we say the body by exercising it helps the body to use the sugar because we need to use the sugar. If you look at the first one here, this is what I usually design. Let's just put this one, okay? We call it insulin, okay? And then here we have what? We have the sugar, right? You remember this picture? So what is the insulin job? What is the insulin going to do with the sugar? What is the insulin going to do with the sugar? Because now you just ate, so when you eat, okay, you have like some breaking down of the food into sugar, right? So then sugar level is going up. So then what is the insulin going to do?
It stores it in the...
Okay, 1 second, not you.
Sorry.
I want him to understand. When you eat the food, right, sugar level goes up or down?
Up.
Up, alright? Then what is happening? If it goes up and it stays up, it's a problem, right?
Right.
So how do we call that problem? Diabetes. How do we avoid it? So what is the body going to do? What is the body going to do when sugar goes up? What is the body going to do? What is going to happen?
Break it down or just extract it or store it? I don't know.
Yeah, the storage part. The storage part also happens when we now have some form of excess. Okay, but in perfect condition, how's the body machine going to react to increase of sugar? Anybody knows? What is that? What is going to happen?
The muscles use the sugar. It helps the muscles to use the sugar and also store
Yes,
it.
but how do they use it? What is the insulin going to do?
They deliver it?
Yes. So if we deliver it where?
The muscles.
Yeah. So we're going to deliver it here. Sorry, to the muscle cells. to fat cells, and in some cases we may have some form of storage in the form of glycogen. Okay, and it's that glycogen in the reverse case that will be, broken down into sugar again. Okay, do you follow me?
Yes.
So you see, by exercising, like Peter said, it helps, right? So these muscles are going to use that sugar, all right? So, which means that we also have to be very careful not to reach the level of hypoglycemic level, meaning that we now don't have enough sugar. And if you don't have enough, the pancreas will help produce produce what? The glucagon that will help what? To break down the glycogen. Hey guys, this was in chapter 3, right? I'm kind of worried a little bit. Did you guys just took all the PPT and put it in the garbage?
Not yet.
Not yet? We still have what? A month to study? Or 2 months? How much time we have left?
1 month, maybe?
1 month maybe?
A little more than
I think I still have 4 chapters to cover. Right? We have to look at cardiovascular disease and heart, renal disease, and we have to look at all these problems. Okay? But this relationship, I didn't go in details today because we saw it in chapter 3. So that should be already... Right. But anyways, Alberto, if it's still confusing after class, you can see me after class. We'll stay here after class. Okay, guys? Just come see me after class. All right. So the number two options. How do we manage diabetes? Diabetes is what? Through medication. When I was young, I wanted to be a medical doctor, but these days I don't want to go to the hospital. They rarely give good news, right? It's a good business. So medication, clients with type 1 diabetes must have injections. This is what I said in the beginning. Insulin injection, right? Worked for Eli Lilly before, we have like insulin pens, just like, injection of insulin every day, all right? To control the blood glucose level. Once initiated, usually continue through life. You can have human insulin, the most common one, you use the preferred one. Some of them are very fast, so it can regulate quickly the blood glucose level. Okay? So number 2 option is medication. The number 3 part is what? Is the food, our diet, chapter 3. Okay? This is where we need to spend most of our time here. Okay? This is where we need to spend most of our time. The recommended one, 50 to 60% from carbohydrates, 50 to 50% from complex carbohydrate, 10 to 20% from single sugars. All right. Remember, when we talk about complex carbohydrates here, I gave you the example of what? Fibers. Remember? The introductory part. So what did I say about fibers? What is the advantage, for example, in the case of fibers? What was the advantage here?
Weight loss.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So with fibers, we don't have a lot of use in terms of the insulin. Like the body doesn't need to produce much insulin. Okay. We still plan a good diet. All right. We still have to, when we deal with people with such conditions, we have to make sure that we really know the food that they usually eat, so that we can propose them, different types of carbohydrates, okay? Different types of food that they can eat, and just say, okay, hey, maybe stay away from simple sugar, complex carbohydrates, not so bad. For example, we talk about the grains. Last time we looked at whole grain and refined grain. What was the difference when we talk, for example, in terms of fibers? White rice or brown rice? What would you recommend in this case?
Brown rice.
Why?
That's more vitamins.
Yeah, so you have like all the nutrients if you want, right? But in terms of fibers, you're not probably going to see much of it on the white one, okay? So sometimes people will just say, okay, I have diabetes, I don't eat rice anymore, and maybe rightfully so, but we have to really look at what type of carbohydrates, right? Usually dietary carbohydrates, we don't have a problem. Basically, if we can stay away from processed food, that will be great, okay? That will be great. So, here, there's a method that we call the plate method. Remember, chapter 2, we look at my plate, how we should eat, planning a healthy diet, okay? So, here, what do we look at? This is like your plate. Half of your plate is mostly what? Vegetables, okay? And the second part divided in two, where you may have like bread, starch, grains. The starch part here, again, thinking about complex carbohydrates. Okay? And then you have the other side, meat and protein. I mean, this picture has like some cheese, I'll probably stay away from it. Okay? Probably stay away from, really all this proteinic food that may turn into fat and probably type 2 diabetes. So we're not saying stop eating those things, okay? But you can see that the portion is much, much smaller, okay? Much, much smaller here. And of course, you have like the drinking part, where you have 1 cup, maybe you have milk and yogurt, and it can just be, you have a ice cream here, but I stay away from it. Right? Unless you really have like a good description of what is inside, but you want to stay, not too much of a single sugar. Because what do we put here? 10 to 20% from simple sugars, right? So we need 50 to 60% of our food are carbohydrates, right? But 40 to 50 is actually complex carbohydrates, okay? And 10 to 20% we get it from simple sugar. So why do we do it? We use the plate method. This is the first method. How do I manage diabetes through my diet? I use the plate method. The number 1, the carbohydrates counting. I will show you in a minute. Number 2, use label nutrition facts. Food label. We did that exercise, remember? Right? Chapter 2, we look at, I show you like, okay, we have these are, this is what I have on my food label. So I have to make sure of the type of sugar I have there, the type of fat that I have there. So, because this is your life. And if your life is in danger, then you have to do this. Alright? Use the plate method, carbohydrate counting, I'll show you in a few minutes. Use the label nutrition facts that we look at in chapter 2. When you go for shopping, you always have to read what is inside the food. Alright? And on the other side here is something that everybody knows, okay, eat less fat. Because we just showed it. Problem of insulin resistance and fat obstructing the passage of insulin, right? Eating less sugar, I say refined sugar, natural sugar probably, okay, to some extent. Eating less salt. As you know, the sodium here is associated with high blood pressure, and we just show it. This is high blood pressure also associated with diabetes. Okay, and less